So this upcoming weekend, we've got not one, but two pay-per-view events. It seems like 2 weeks ago we had WrestleMania, all the talk of that. But now when we move past WrestleMania, now it's time to that time of year where everyone's pay-per-views kind of carry equal weight, right? We don't have another SummerSlam or, WrestleMania coming up for a couple months. So it's essentially B pay-per-views for all. And with the pay-per-views coming up this weekend, we've got one from TNA. It's their second as being rebranded TNA since January. It's TNA Rebellion. That seems to be one of the names they'd like to stick around. That's not a classic TNA name that goes back, to Slammiversary or Bound for Glory. That's one that they picked up in their Impact days, and they seem to like that name for some reason, but they're keeping with that one. And we got AEW Dynasty, a brand new pay-per-view, the first AEW Dynasty ever, the first AEW pay-per-view in the month of April. We're used to going from Revolution to Double or Nothing, but we got this one sandwiched in between. I think this year they've announced we're going to have 8 total. So from St. Louis, we got a pay-per-view. From Las Vegas, we've got AEW Rebellion, and we're going to kind of go over just some of the highlights because you wouldn't guess it, but there's a lot of matches on both of these cards. I will start with the one on Saturday night in Las Vegas. Obviously, the big name here that's kind of the Matt Cardonas of the world, the guy who learned a lot from Cody Rhodes, who learned a lot from Matt Cardona, who's doing some of the same stuff and forging his own path since his WWE release date, and that's Dolph Ziggler, known in WWE, now known as Nick Nemeth. He'll be taking on the champion Moose. But like I said, this guy's forming his own path. He's following that line that Matt Cardona and Cody Rhodes and even Drew McIntyre did, where once he was out of WWE, he had to figure out what to do with himself. He's only known the WWE, and same with those guys, right? And he was in GCW at WrestleMania weekend. He was, he's showing up in other indie shows, and he's showing up on TNA, which I think is one of the ones he's kind of making a more of a mainstay on. So I will say in this match, Moose has been champion for quite a period of time. He's been the champion, not just for quite a period of time on this particular reign, but it seems like the better part of like the last 4 years, Moose has been the champion in TNA. Do you see them taking a direction here in Las Vegas of making him, Nick Nemeth, the new TNA champion?
I do. I really do. He's obviously he's newer to the non-WWE scene is what I like to call it. I'm not going to call it indie because, he's doing the indie feds, but TNA and AEW, they're I don't call them indie promotions, obviously. So he's making the rounds. We'll just say that. He's doing non-WWE stuff at this point. And, he's one of the most coveted guys in the business that's not in WWE these days. And I think TNA putting the strap on Nick Nemeth, I think it's a good thing. Moose has been a great champion, like you mentioned, for the better part of the last handful of years. So I think it's time for Nemeth to get the championship. Now I do want to go. I want to slide back to another name that's tied to WWE, Mustafa Ali. Now he's going to be in the TNA. He is the TNA X Division champion. But I'm curious to see if he retains his championship. I feel like he will because he's relatively new, obviously, to the TNA brand. So I think we're going to see some WWE extra stank in the title reigns in TNA.
One match I'm kind of looking forward to, just from the names, right? Jordana Grace, we know her, obviously, if you're just a WWE fan, you know her from her appearance at the Royal Rumble this past year. Yep. She is up there with Jade Cargill as probably one of the more dominant forces in the world of women's wrestling. Powerful. She's taking on Steph DeLander, same as what we were just talking about, Nick Nemeth, making her rounds. You just saw her in GCW when we were there in Rochester ourselves, as together just a month ago as a manager there. But she's showing up on AEW. She's showing up in Ring of Honor. She used to be in NXT 2.0 as Persia Parada.
Persia Parada. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But she's kind of hooked her wagon to Matt Cardona a little bit when it comes to coming out with him, as she has recently on Impact Wrestling or TNA Wrestling. She's come out with Matt Cardona and stuff. So she's kind of making a name for herself as kind of being somebody who's going to pop up a little bit everywhere. You never know. Like I said, when we saw her at GCW, she wasn't one of the major advertised people. She kind of popped up, as a manager, and she was actually, quite entertaining. Like you looked at her and you forget that she's been in a lot of spotlights because she had like that indie look. No, she wasn't afraid to curse. She wasn't afraid to yell at the crowd. She wasn't afraid to kind of, get hit with a weapon or provide weapons to the.
I mean, she cut a good promo when we were there too in Rochester. Like, I mean, I think she got some really good heat
about Brett Lauderdale, about being a scumbag.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I guess. Obviously, with Brett Lauderdale, with his ties to the area of Rochester and the show in Rochester, someone might call it cheap heat, but I feel like she brought her game, and I think she was pretty decent on the microphone. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the future unfolds for her, because she's got a lot of talent. It just needs to be kind of molded a little bit.
Two other matches I'll talk about quickly, and I think Jordana Grace is going to keep the belt because, again, similar to like Jade Cargill, it's hard for me to see anybody defeating her right now until they build up another kind of equal. But two other quick matches I will talk about of interest. Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, known as the System in TNA, right? Brian Myers, we all know him as, Matt Cardona's friend, his days in WWE as well. Formerly,
Kurt Hawkins.
Kurt Hawkins, right? And but they're teaming up against Trent Seven. I know you used to love him back in the day, right? And was Mustache Mountain, right?
Yes.
And Mike Bailey, Speedball Mike Bailey. I think this Mike Bailey right now, to me, is what Will Ospreay was like 3 or 4 years ago. You think that you don't know, because a lot of times, the WWE tells you or AEW tells you who the big stars are. They promote them that way. But sometimes you can see somebody and you go, that guy looks like a star. I don't need you to tell me he's a star. That guy looks like a star. I watched Will Ospreay not knowing who he was, and I was like, that guy's a star.
I got to ask you real quick. What's in the water in Laval, Quebec, Canada? Like, what's in the water there? Because you got Sami Zayn that's coming out of there, and then I know, I know, like, I don't know Canada as well as you do, but I know Kevin Owens is from that neck of the woods.
Kevin Owens is from just outside of Montreal. It's, I think, Sherrybrook. It's not Laval, right? Laval is the big pseudo suburb of Montreal. It's a part of Montreal. It's like a 30-minute drive. But it's like, what you have a lot of times in major cities, you have like another city that's a part of that major city, where it's like a major city, skyscrapers, the downtown, and then you drive for 20 minutes outside the city, and then like another pseudo city shows up, if you will, right? Yeah. Like New York City, you drive outside of New York City, and then there's like Newark, New Jersey, where like the Devils play and stuff like that. So there's like another pseudo city. So Laval is like that. Like they have the AAA hockey team, the Laval Rocket. They've got a few taller buildings and some headquarters, but yeah, I think just Quebec in general, or just Canada in general, right? With Edge and Christian, it's definitely a hotbed for wrestling, no doubt. Mike Bailey, though, like I said, I think he is definitely a star to watch. Of all the people in this match, and there's some stars in this match, watch him the most. Some of the best matches I've seen over the last couple of years have involved him. Again, GCW, he's not afraid to get hardcore, but more importantly, he's a good wrestler. You're going to see him do some moves very similar to Will Ospreay, where it's like that was entertaining without getting hit with a chair. So I'm interested to see that match.
Do you see WWE written all over this guy? Because I do.
I mean, I don't know, because I see what Will Ospreay has written all over this guy. So whatever path essentially Will Ospreay takes, I don't. Again, we're in a new era in WWE, so it's difficult. I don't want to say yes or no, and I also
feel like he is, though. I feel like he's got the skill set to be a really good WWE superstar. I mean, I'm not trying to count my chickens before they hatch. I think the Speedball Mountain with Trent Seven, I think that's going to be a good match, and I wouldn't be surprised if they came away with it as the champions.
I would love to see if he ever does come to WWE, which we'll probably never see it because we never see dream matches. They always keep them far apart. But like a Ricochet versus Mike Bailey would be one, I think, that would be very entertaining, which would be very non-WWE like. It'd be very like what you see on the indies, where it's such a back and forth match, right? Because that's the similar kind of styles. But one other quick match we'll talk about from this pay-per-view I find interesting because there's other big names involved, and that's Eric Young, Frankie Kazarian in a Full Metal Mayhem match. What obviously I like about this is these are obviously recognizable names. These are guys who have both been in both WWE and AEW. Frankie Kazarian, he's been around the world from TNA originally to Ring of Honor banner in its days when it had CM Punk and, Seth Rollins, to, Christopher Daniels teaming up with him. So he's definitely somebody who has made a real career, because it's crazy to think. I mean, think about Frankie Kazarian. He is 46 years old, never really was in the WWE for any period of time. He might have been for a dark match here or there, but never, made a name for himself in that company. And he's somebody who's probably going to end his career without ever being in WWE, but yet having a full professional wrestling career. And Eric Young, obviously somebody who had a short period of time in WWE, but has made his name mostly outside of it. Should be interesting match just because, again, big names, and it's like a Full Metal Mayhem, so you mean that's like hardcore, essentially the equivalent of like TLC. So should be an interesting match. So definitely check that one out from Las Vegas on Saturday night. We move over to Sunday night in St. Louis, Missouri. AEW's first pay-per-view from St. Louis. And, we talked about this. If AEW got more pay-per-views, would the pay-per-view shrink? And as of right now, it doesn't appear so. There's 10 matches on this card if you count a pre-show match, because, of course, they got a pre-show match. And it's similar to the pre-show match we just saw in the last pay-per-view, because I think the last pay-per-view had Jay White and the Guns versus the Acclaimed. So this World Trios Championship is like designated for the pre-show over here on AEW. I don't know what the theory behind that is, but we'll move along to Adam Copeland, Eddie Kingston, and Mark Briscoe versus House of Black. Forget winning and losing on this. With WWE, obviously, with their changeover and things, Malachi Black, right, and Buddy Matthews, do you think they are looking over at WWE now, today, and saying, I wish I was there, or I made the right choice, I like where I am currently?
I think they're looking back and saying, with all the craziness that AEW's gone through since they've been there, they're probably looking over and saying, man, I bet you Triple H would really give us a good push right now. So I think that's where I stand on it. I'm not dissing on AEW, but I think the way Triple H is running things, the Triple H era, so to speak, I think Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews would be tailor made for this, for that type of style. So. And here's the thing, to be honest with you, I don't know when their contracts are up. I don't know their contract status, but I wouldn't be surprised if once their contracts are up, they're back in WWE. I think once their contract is up in AEW, I'd be very surprised if they re-upped again. That's just my opinion.
I will say with this pay-per-view, there's really not anything that you could just say like, well, I'm not interested in that. Maybe the Julia Hart, Willow Nightingale. That's me. Most people out there would probably want to see that match most, because Willow Nightingale, I don't know what it is. She's just crazy popular right now.
I know.
For me, that's a passover.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, like, we're in the minority with it, but like, I just don't buy the hype of Willow Nightingale. I've said it before. Like, here's the thing. Do I think she has a chance to be a star? Yes, but for some reason, I don't know why, but like Tony Khan and AEW, they already think she's on the same level as a Mercedes Moné, which she is not. She's not even in the same league. And here's my thing. I think Julia Hart should retain, but Willow Nightingale is going to win the match. And then they're going to set up this matchup between her and Mercedes Moné. And here's the thing. I get it. They did some stuff in Japan together, and Willow went over, blah, 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 the whole thing. To me, I just don't buy the hype. That's fine if people want to root for her. I don't have any issues with people rooting for her. I think she has great talent, but I think she still needs time to mold herself a little bit more. I don't think she's that great on the microphone. I think her ring work is average. That's just my take. And I think Sasha Banks is on such a different level than her. I think it's unfortunate because that's the AEW division for women's division right now. It's like Sasha Banks and then like everybody else. I feel like that's kind of where I feel like she's a super, like a megastar, and then you got a bunch of up and coming, or I would say stars but not superstars yet.
So one other match, that there's lots of matches, but Timeless Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa. I guess my take on that match is at WrestleMania weekend, I was at a few things where I was pretty close with Thunder Rosa, like the Busted Open radio parties and stuff, because she's a part of Busted Open and is part of that channel and talks wrestling. Same with Nick Nemeth, who was also one of the co-hosts on that show. So an active competitor and a co-host on that show. But it's crazy to say it. This is just an observation, and I don't really think of it because I don't really get around big time wrestlers too much, especially those who are about to be in world championship matches. But 5'3", right? Anytime I was with her or near her, right, we did a little like trivia thing, and I got involved in that a little bit. But like, she's 5'3" and 119 pounds, and like you'd imagine, if I was with somebody, right, and they were saying which one's the wrestler, they would have not picked her. Right, 5'3", 119 pounds. I mean, she's got muscle, right, like anybody else. But I wouldn't pick her out at my gym on an afternoon and think that she is a professional wrestler. Very talented, you know what I mean. But I'm just making that observation. I know Becky Lynch is very small as well, you know what I mean, and she's got kind of the same build. But I guess by having been around Thunder Rosa, and it was kind of one of those like, wow, I hear you all the time. I see you on television all the time with your face paint. You're kind of larger than life. So physically being here without your face paint on, you know what I mean? In like a setting where we're all equals, we're all standing around together.
Are you trying to say she just looks normal?
She looks incredibly normal. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I'm not saying that Timeless Tony Storm wouldn't look like that either, but again, that also adds to the the fact of like Timeless Tony Storm being, and she's bigger too. I mean, she's 5'6", 143 pounds, but also again, the makeup and the things that all these characters do to really look larger than life, it really is a testament to their character. I don't think
Thunder Rosa wins either. I still think Timeless is going to keep the title.
So quickly going over Young Bucks and FTR, that's the matchup that we hope overshadows the horrible footage incident that happened last week. Hopefully we don't get too many CM Punk and Jungle Boy chants during that tournament final for the ladder match for the AEW World Tag Team Champions. We're crowning new tag team champions because remember Darby Allin and Sting retired essentially. Darby Allin didn't retire, but Sting retired as tag team champion. Okada versus Pac for the AEW Continental Champion. It doesn't need to be for a championship. I just love to see Okada and Pac in the ring. I think that should be entertaining. And another match that doesn't need a championship at all is Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson. I think this should be the main event. This was the first match made for this card. I think Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson should be the final match of the night. We talk about with AEW all the time about how they overbook these things. I think if this was a 6-match card with Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson kind of being the match for this card, you know what I mean? Having maybe even like that 6-man tag, maybe even having like some non-championship matches, and then having this.
They could get rid of Hook and Chris Jericho and Julia Hart and Willow Nightingale, and maybe move some matches around just a little bit and make it an 8-match card, and it'd be good.
Yeah, I think they could make it, like I said, I think they could make it a 6-match card. I'm not saying that these matches are worthless. I'm just saying that these matches might have more value if they were main eventing a Dynamite or moved on to the next pay-per-view. Like Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland, again, you know what I mean? I said it similar at Revolution. At Revolution, we didn't really need the championship match, literally right before Sting's retirement match, the reason we're all there. And in this pay-per-view, maybe, Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland for the championship is the headline match for Double or Nothing, next month. But what do you see? Is this Swerve Strickland's time to become champion? He's been getting so much, push, last couple of months.
Whose house? Whose house?
So you're saying it's Swerve Strickland's?
You got it right, my friend. I think it's his time. I mean, Swerve is one of those guys. Like you asked the question earlier about Malachi Black and Buddy Matthews. Like, would they be happier in WWE? Swerve is the case where AEW is pushing him to the moon. So in his case, Swerve Strickland's made the right move in being in AEW. I think he's going to be the champion. Samoa Joe's done a great job as world champion, but I do think it's Swerve's house and it's Swerve's championship. I'm looking forward to a title reign because Swerve Strickland has been on fire. I'm excited to see a super long reign of his. I think it's going to be fun.